All right, Big Bang. Today's Tuesday. It's August 23rd. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. It's Eddie and Chief. Chief, how are you? How was your weekend? How was everything else in your life? Loaded question to start your day.
I'm not going to give you an honest answer. So
I appreciate
the weekend
that.
was good. It was great. It was a great weekend. But yeah, it's like, dying days of summer now. And, I'm both like mourning it, but I'm Mr. Fall. So I'm like getting ready.
What do you think about the people who give honest answers?
Typically, I like them, but I don't think anybody wants to hear an honest answer to a question like that.
Yeah, that's what I mean, specifically to a question like that.
Yeah, just, give the answer that allows us all to just move on with our day. I don't want to hear about your problems.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's also specific to how well you know the person.
Yeah, and if it was genuine.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
So if it's like a coworker and it's someone or whatever, you're somebody your acquaintances with, and they ask you how your weekend was or how's it going, you're just like, it's good, thanks.
Yeah.
How are you doing? And then they should have to give you the exact same answer that you gave.
I remember I was at a bar. I was at the grocery store with a couple buddies in college, and we saw. This is not funny. I'm not laughing at this what happened because obviously it's very serious and fucked up. But like it goes with this conversation. We saw a guy who bounced at the local bar, and I'm sorry, I can't laugh while I tell a story, but they're like,
I don't even know what it is. I'm
right,
starting to laugh.
So he was buying this guy, like everyone kind of fucked with him because he had a cat, like whatever.
Okay.
And so he was buying kitty litter, and we saw him like, oh, what's up, man? How are you? Like, how's everything going? Everything's fine. Just getting some stuff for the cat, and everything's good. Besides, my sister's boyfriend beat the fuck out of her again, and we're like, whoa, dude! Like, and that's what I mean. Like, not funny, very serious.
Very
but it was
serious.
just like I was not prepared for that at the grocery
Yeah.
store,
Yeah.
So that's what I mean, where it's like people.
Yeah, in that situation, you just say, good.
Yeah. It was very much like it was jarring.
We're good.
Like I was not prepared to walk past the Rice Krispie treats and hear that. It was a lot. But I hope she's okay.
I hope she's okay. And that
Disclaimer, obviously.
And then that guy got punished
Yes.
adequately. Yes.
And I hope the bouncer who told me that has closer people to talk to than me
I
walking
hope
past
so too.
the cereal aisle.
Right. Yeah, you don't share that information.
So now you see why I was laughing, but it's not a laughing matter.
Correct.
Regardless, hope everybody's doing well. Hope everyone had a good weekend. So it's kind of weird, I know. We pre-record the drafts the week before because a lot of editing goes into them.
Yep.
And whatnot. So we always treat these like a Monday, and people are always like, it's Tuesday, man. Like, why are you guys always having these like...
I've never thought about that.
I thought about that.
Yeah, but you're 100% accurate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is always like our Monday morning conversation
recap.
too.
Yeah.
Where we get into other stuff. I hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's settling in with a couple more weeks of summer, which I know Chief is excited about. But before I got
an interesting DM or a text the other day.
Whoa.
And this is one of those things I feel like you will say no to, but I'm going to put the offer out there anyways. You want to have the boys go out and take some sailing lessons for Stool Scenes content, and then we can do a little sailing race around the lake.
What is it? What goes into that though?
I don't know. Show up and get on a boat and
pull
some
am I going to
ropes.
have to be like...
You're going to be holding Danny's head back as he pukes over the set.
Is it like fucking working the cables? Like, is my upper body going to be sore?
I hope so.
Well, I don't know if I want to do that.
I don't think it's great content if we're just out for a day sail, like a couple of Mai Tais in our hands.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, if you're telling me to spin a wheel, like I'm in.
Okay.
But if you're telling me I got to be fucking pulling the levers, I don't know if I'm in.
We'll have,
but for content, I'm probably in.
Okay. So the girl's name, she's in my phone, is Katie Sales. So we'll call Katie Sales. And we'll figure out the way to how we're going to manage this. But I feel like that would be a fun time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Katie Sales. Shout out to her. It's Katie S-A-I-L-S, not S-A-L-E-S.
Correct.
She's not
selling anything except for maybe sailboat memberships.
Mark me down as a maybe.
Okay.
Mark me down as a maybe. But, I mean, speaking of sailing, not really speaking of sailing at all, speaking of like events, if you want to get out there and go do something before the summer's over, the Game Time app is there for you.
We were just talking. So September 3rd is a big day.
Huge day.
And we got Notre Dame's playing Ohio State in Columbus. So if you're in that area, you can get on Game Time for that. You're sticking around Chicago, you don't give a shit about college football, the Lumineers are playing at Wrigley Field.
Beautiful.
And I I don't know if I feel like sometimes Lumineers get like hate. I love the Lumineers. I think the Lumineers are great.
They're that band that has like a couple more songs than I realized. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay,
Ophelia, Cleopatra, all those kind of
yeah,
you know.
hey ho,
Yeah.
hey.
Yeah.
So go see the Lumineers or go take that drive to Columbus. I mean, I know tickets are expensive, but the best spot if you're going to see a drop, if you're going to just constantly keep an eye on them,
Game Time.
use the Game Time app.
Yep.
Honestly, it's the best spot to do it. It's the exclusive ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. Game Time is a ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last-minute deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows, and they guarantee the lowest price. Download the Game Time app, go to the account tab to create a login and redeem code DOGWALK for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Download Game Time, last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
You know what I decided to?
What?
Speaking of Game Time and just life in general, about the comment about how your weekend was,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to start doing more shit. I'm always worried about the future and like putting money away and doing things the right way.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? Who needs money?
Yeah.
Fuck that. I'm going to spend it and have some memories and have a good time. And I thought about doing the Columbus thing, couldn't make it happen. If it wasn't, you know, like I'm just going to use, point is, I'm going to be on Game Time a lot more. I've been using it all summer, but I need to make a concerted effort to get out to events that I want to go to, and Game Time is the best thing for that.
See, I know we've had conversations too, where you know you have the Black Mirror, like, would you want to know? Would you not want to know? The Matrix, blue pill, red pill.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like little shit like that, where it's like, how much money should I really be spending? Like, would be something that would just help everybody.
Yeah,
You know?
like if there
Where
was
it's
like an equation.
Yeah, like they're like, dude, like,
There probably is.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're like, dude, just you could spend that.
You can spend that, and it's like I was talking to somebody, they're like, oh, like what are your hobbies? And I'm like, well, I don't have any. I don't have any hobbies, and like the only thing that I really like, my vice, because I'm not like a big drinker. I don't, you know, I like to gamble a little bit, and it like gives me, you know, so I've been doing that, you know, Saturday mornings here for soccer, and I've enjoyed that. But it's one of those things where it's just like, hey, like I got to start not caring about being responsible as much. Fuck being responsible.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be so embarrassing to die with money in your bank account. Could you imagine?
Who wants that?
Yeah. We can give it a Harry.
Fuck that guy.
We do have a topic today, though.
We do.
Based out of San Francisco.
Yep.
A story that broke 2 weeks ago or so.
Yes and no. I mean, it's probably broken 3 times. It's just recirculated more recently, but it's a story of William Howard Hughes Jr., which quite the name. But he was originally from Washington. His dad was in the aviation industry, and then he joined the Air Force. And then in 1983, he just up and vanished. And then they found him in 2018, and that story just kind of got recirculated a couple weeks ago. But it is kind of just like I don't know. It's just like it's like an interesting story about like the military and the human condition and like the period of time. So it kind of went a little viral, and we're going to talk about it here.
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like he's just got to be Will Hughes. You can't be William Howard Hughes.
I feel like anytime you're infamous, they throw your middle name in there.
Yeah.
And if you know, we talked about Howard Hughes on this show as a what they do, and so if you're like that, has to be intentional. Like the dad's last name is Hughes. He worked up in Seattle, the aviation industry, which, you know, Howard Hughes was huge in aviation before he lost his marbles, and so I feel like the dad's just like, I'm going to name you after my favorite industry, the thing I built my life on, Howard Hughes. Mm-hmm. So I think it just has a nice little ring to it. Will Hughes? Billy Hughes?
Obviously, I know what they're going for, but it's like...
Although he is a junior, so maybe...
but like you got to be... such a ball... Like Kevin Michael Jordan, you know? It's like, just be Kevin Jordan.
Kevin Jordan.
You know? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair point. You're setting yourself up for something there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Or it's like in Office Space where the guy's name is Bill, you know, what was it, Billy Joel?
Michael Bolton.
Michael Bolton, yeah. So.
Michael Bolton?
Exactly.
What a great fucking movie.
Yeah.
All right, where we kick off?
Yeah, so this guy, it was an interesting story, and I think it was interesting basically just because the period of time. Okay, so this guy, Will Hughes, was born, like I said, Pacific Northwest, decided to join the Air Force and was in the Air Force for 10 years. So he joined in 73, and was having a successful career. So he got moved to Kirkland Air Force Base, which is right near Albuquerque, New Mexico, rose to the rank of captain, had been given, top secret access. So he was like a riser in the Air Force, like doing good work. And he was working on these missile systems for NATO. So it'd be like, it was missile defense systems, and then also like missile alert systems. So missile defense. And then also like the, sending out systems and programming to send missiles to Moscow and every fucking where else if it came to it. He was in charge of that shit. So he's been doing this stuff for 10 years. They send him in like a special envoy, like a short program over to the Netherlands, which is, a NATO nation, to help them with similar things. And so he left, and he was going to be there for a little. He goes over to the Netherlands. He works over there, and he was due to return to Kirkland Air Force Base on August 1st, 1983. Never came back. And so so they start doing this investigation, and this was like headline news. Like the Chicago Tribune had it. It was a story kind of all over the country in 1983 because it was like, where the fuck is this guy? And the reason it was such a story was because that was the last time it felt like we were on like a razor's edge in terms of the Cold War and nuclear disaster. So going back to 1983, Ronald Reagan was the president. Ronald Reagan was a very hardline anti-communist, really built his entire political career on that. So you go back to, he was head of SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, in the 50s and 60s. And that was when like McCarthyism was taken off. So like he had to, go before Congress and speak about like, who's a card carrying member of the Communist Party, who isn't, defend his people, also kind of give them some red meat. But he was a very hardline anti-communist always. And he would do like these, like one of his jobs after his acting career in the Screen Actors Guild presidency kind of went away as he was working for General Electric. And he would kind of tour the country talking about the wonders of General Electric's products, and then also be like, fuck the Soviet Union. And fuck communism is this evil thing. And that was really like his career. And he built that career up to the point where in the 60s, he became a viable, because he was so visible and so anti-communist, that he became a viable candidate for governor of California. And he won re-election. And then he spent the next, I think he ran for president 3 different times. And the third time is when he won. But so the Soviets were a dying empire, right? They're running out of money. And so the fear was, in a desperation move, that they would launch a nuclear war. And Reagan, as a guy who was trying to take down the Soviet Union, as one of his like political things, was like kind of stoking those flames. Like he had all this détente all through the 60s and 70s where we're going to try to work together. You guys are out of grain. We'll lift the sanctions on grain. We'll get you guys some grain. All these things were like we would have an agreement. Hey, we're going to have anti-nuclear proliferation, and we'll give you this if you stop doing nuclear testing. And then the Russians would always be like, we're going to do our shit anyway. So they would habitually like break these agreements, and no one ever really did anything about it because no one wanted things to escalate. So come 1983, Reagan's in office. They're afraid of this fucking cowboy. He is, like I said, very anti-communist, but he's also spending a gazillion dollars on revamping our military, which hadn't been done, to catch up to the Soviet Union, doing more nuclear weapons. And then that was when the microchip was invented. So the microchip was something the Soviets couldn't manufacture, they couldn't steal, and it allowed Reagan to talk about this thing called Star Wars, which is sort of sounds like maybe it was related to this missile defense thing that Will Hughes was on. But Star Wars was a satellite system that allowed, supposedly, it could just send out basically fucking, if you look at like the graphics for it that they would release, kind of like almost commercials talking about it, it would just like laser beam these Soviet missiles, warheads, that are in orbit on their way to New York in midair and send them off to space. Like, it was just like they would just never impact us. And that like terrified the Soviets, because it's like, well, then if we can't hit them and they can only hit us, we're in a position of weakness. And so that was really one of those things, along with using the dollar as a weapon, that really, because the Soviets they tried to keep up with the spending, and it just collapsed the rest of their economy. So that was something that Reagan really did. And it led to this hypertension moment in the early 80s, where the United States and Soviet Union, when they had like kind of more peace, and we were also funding like the Mujahideen at that point, which were fighting the Soviets in Afghanistan. So there's a lot of like little Cold War flare-ups going on. So when this guy with top secret clearance for U.S. programs, he's in the Air Force for 10 years, he's a captain, and he's working on this missile defense. He goes to Europe and then never comes back. People are like, well, shit, he must be a fucking spy. And people so they have like a worldwide manhunt. He's wanted by, obviously, the Air Force. They had the FBI working on it. They had, Interpol. I think we talked about that on something recently too. But Interpol is like this, international, I think it's international police, Interpol. But you could put out these things where it's basically like, hey, if you find this guy in fucking Italy or Switzerland or Netherlands or South Africa or wherever, we have a wanted poster out for him, basically arrest him and you extradite him back to the United States. So everybody's like combing the whole world looking for this guy, and they do the investigation, and it's like, well, Will Hughes, he did come back to the United States after that trip to the Netherlands, and he went around to all these different ATMs all over Albuquerque area, so 19 total, and took out $28,500 in cash from 19 different ATMs. So you're like, oh, that's fucking suspicious. And then he was officially declared as AWOL, absent without leave, on August 10th, 1983. And so now it was like, so the Air Force put out like a wanted poster for him, and that's how the Chicago Tribune and other media outlets got the story. And then they would question people in the Pentagon. They're like, you think this guy's a spy? And they're like, yeah, like we definitely can't rule it out. We think this guy might be a spy, a guy who has all these secrets and just whoosh, up and vanish one day with all his cash. And they're like, nobody knows where he is anywhere in the world. And what further heightened tensions and suspicion was that right after he left, France and the United States have been working on these different missile launches and satellite launches. And then there was also the I can't remember the name of the space shuttle in 1986 that famously blew up after launch. And people were trying to link William Howard Hughes Jr. more so to the three failed satellite orbit launches that were supposedly using the technology that he had worked on. So they're like, this guy's fucking sabotaging things. And they're like, well, he's probably worth his weight in gold. A Pentagon official was quoted in an article being like, yes, like, he would have the ability to impact these launches negatively by selling secrets to the Soviets that could hack in or do whatever and fuck up these satellite launches. So like the intensity to find him only grew from there. And but they never found him. There was like this, they can't find this fucking guy anywhere. So by 1987, now you're into the era of like Gorbachev with the Soviet Union, and it's clear at this point that Reagan's plans, the Soviet communist system in general, it's on its way out. So like the Berlin Wall fell 2 years later. I think the Soviet Union officially dissolved in 1991, but the ball had been set in motion that this was going to happen. So with that, it's like a lot changed in that 4 years from the time he disappeared. And then it was just like that story just kind of like disappeared in the news. Like this guy, like there's no more suspicions. Like the hunt for him, it was not like they did all the things. They questioned his whole family. His family's like, they had 3 younger sisters. And they're all just like, like we love Bill, and like we're devastated. Like we think he got abducted. Like he would never do this sort of thing. And they just didn't know. They just had a beloved family member who always kept in touch. One day just vanished. It was unthinkable to them that their brother would just disappear without saying anything. And they interviewed his friends and people at the Air Force Base, went through all his bank records, all this shit, and that's how they found out about the missing $28,000. And so, but the story never went anywhere. There was no more suspicions after the space shuttle in '86, and that was like the last thing that he was supposedly theoretically linked to, and the story just died. And it was like, well, that's a fucking mystery. Like, no one knows the answer to that. And then you fast forward to 2018, and the State Department has their sights set on this guy named Barry Timothy O'Byrne, O'Beirne. And they show up at his house in Daly City, California, which is a suburb of San Francisco. They start questioning him because they were suspicious about his passport. They're like, we think that this is a fake passport, it's passport fraud. So apparently he had been traveling. And they're like, dude, who are you? Like, we know something's going on. And after some questioning, he's just like, I'm William Howard Hughes Jr. I defected from the Air Force in 1983. So this guy had been gone for like 35 years. Okay. And then so they arrest him. Okay. They arrest him for desertion. And look, I don't want to criticize the Air Force, the FBI, Interpol, all these agencies that were looking for him. This fucking guy did not change his appearance so much as
Dude,
one hair out of place. He looks exactly the same.
Fuck,
exactly the same. Like, no one could find that guy. Nobody for 35 years. His haircut's the same. He's got the same fucking mustache. Put a little effort in, dude. He looks exactly the same.
He looks like an actor. I forget. It's blanking my mind, though.
It reminded me of, oh my God, I'm having a bad brain moment. The guy who we've done an episode on, he jumped out of the plane in Washington. You love the story.
Yeah, DB Cooper.
DB Cooper.
Yeah.
So with the DB Cooper thing, now obviously it was like police sketches and everything like that, but everyone's like, man, DB Cooper, it could be this guy, it could be that guy, it could be, whatever. This one is like, no. That person can only be William Howard Hughes Jr. because he looks exactly the same down to his fucking haircut.
It's crazy.
It's preposterous.
You got to pop this picture in here, Harry, for the people watching on YouTube.
He looked, and it was like, if you're trying to evade the FBI, you would think that you would maybe dye your hair, maybe buzz your hair, maybe shave your mustache at least. Nothing. I just watched, within the last week, it was on TV. The Fugitive. It was on AMC, and then I think it was on HBO Max or something too. So I just watched that, and it was like, Dr. Richard Kimball when he was on the run. What did he do? He shaved his beard. He dyed his hair. He changed his haircut. He did all these things.
Such a good movie.
It's like, I'm trying to think of great Chicago movies.
That's up there.
It might be number one. I don't know what.
There.
Yeah, and so. Dr. Richard Kimball, that's how you evade the FBI in my brain. You do all that kind of stuff, and the marshals. This guy did none of that. He was just like, nah, I got a new name now. I took out all my money, bought a new identity, and he lived he had a wife. His wife had no idea. It sounds sort of like, you never watched Mad Men, right?
No.
That's one of the major plot lines in Mad Men is that Don Draper deserted from the military in Korea. When he left his, he grew up poor and, joined the military, and then found himself in Korea and was like, holy fuck, what am I doing here? And he got himself out, but deserted and had to change his identity to do so. And that's what it sounds like. So this guy just said, fuck this place. I'm out of Albuquerque and I'm going to move to California. Who knows if he had stops in between. They never really said. And, if you desert the military, it's usually a big time crime. If it's a wartime desertion, punishable by death. And so this was not, even though it was the Cold War, it was not technically wartime. But if you desert, you get usually it's minimum 5 years, no matter what time you desert. But this is it just makes no sense because he had been in the military for 10 years. So he could have just like resigned his commission and just be like, hey, like, I've done my time. I'm ready to move on to do something else. But he didn't do that. He just up and vanished. And so that's why it was deemed such a strange behavior. And people were like, well, he must be a spy, because no reasonable person would just be like, I'm fucking out, not telling anybody, and go through like you. So he had to resign, he could have been in line for a pension if I think you have to be in the military for 20 years and he was only in for 10. But once you get to that pension level, you get like, it's a pretty good nut that you get the rest of your life. He was given a dishonorable discharge, desertion, left his whole fucking family behind, and started a brand new life. And like when they ask him, like, now in 2018, like, why'd you do that? He goes, I was depressed. I was just depressed. And I just
want to get away.
I just want to fucking get out of there. And, but did not even think, apparently, to just do it like through the proper channels and quit. So you're not like a wanted fugitive where you have to change your identity and abandon your siblings for 35 fucking years. And now I guess like he's going to get like 5 months, I think is what they said he did. 5 months, like he went through an appeals process, and they're like, no, dude, but you don't have to do 5 years, but you have to serve 5 months in a military prison. But so now he's like this old guy, he's probably 65 something years old. No, he was born in 1950, so he's 72 now. So he was 68 when they arrested him. Let's call it 69 when he has to go into jail because he went through an appeals process. So it's like, what are you doing? And then they ask his neighbors, like the classic story, like, what'd you know about this guy? And they're like, he was quiet. Like he went to the gym, but he just like ran on the treadmill, didn't really talk to anybody, which, hand up, like that would be me too. I don't want to fucking talk to anybody at the gym. And they're like, oh, he's a big Giants fan. Like just loves it. The only thing he ever wants to talk about is San Francisco Giants. And it was like, so then I'm thinking, you know what? Guy had a pretty good run.
Yeah.
Because he was living in San Francisco as a Giants fan or some, new identity. But he got to see all of Barry Bonds. He got to see the 3 World Series in the 2010s. And you just have to go to jail for 5 months. Now, you could have done all of that.
And not had to worry about that?
Yeah.
What an interesting dude, seeming that he's not like a crazy person.
I think he's got to be a little nuts.
Yeah, that's what I figured. But seeming like
married for 30 years.
But sometimes it's like, dude, that shit happens, or people just pick up and then just like leave and they'll just drive.
I fantasize about it all the time.
Yeah, just drive to fuck. Yeah, I know you just like, we might show up to do a podcast one Monday and you might be in Montana.
It's like the Good Will Hunting thing. I want to show up here and just one day you'll just be gone.
Yeah, and that's I get that. So
yeah,
I don't know. This is like a guy seeming like he's like a little normal. I'd love to like talk to him.
Me too.
I'd love for him to write a book or something.
Yeah,
about how
we should see if we can find him on LinkedIn or something. Timothy O'Byrne.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, but it is like I'm not joking when I say like I have had that fantasy.
Yeah.
Just being like,
I think everyone has, bro. Like I have too.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. How far do you think you would get? How long do you think you can take? You could keep. I'm talking like change your name, the whole thing.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. I'm just saying like leave the bullshit behind.
Yeah, but like,
I don't know, dude.
I don't know either.
Yeah, it's too like I think because
I couldn't do it to my mom.
I think you'd quickly realize like what you were looking for. Like you just take a fucking vacation. You know what I mean? What you were looking for was not found through that act, but maybe it is. Maybe it was for people. Like there's definitely people who move to different countries and do that.
Yeah. See, I always wonder about that too. Because I started, I used to get all these like emails. I don't know how it started from like the New Zealand Immigration Board. And they're like, you qualify for like these 4 jobs. And they were like bullshit jobs. It was like, a marketing executive. Like you don't have anybody in fucking New Zealand who can do this job to get like, you have to import somebody from America to do that. It just made me think that, maybe I should just fucking move to New Zealand. And I, like this was probably like 2018 when I was like, that job I had, that company I had was going in the shitter. And I was just like, like single, I don't have any like real obligations here. Maybe I'll just fucking go and live in a different country for a while.
Yeah.
And then see how it goes. And then Dave Portnoy offered us. So I was like, well, I guess I'll stay. That was basically the timeline.
I won't go to New Zealand. Yeah.
I won't go to. I was either going to go to Oregon, and I was thinking seriously about New Zealand.
That would have been a very interesting.
But I had accepted an offer in Oregon.
Alternate life.
Yeah.
Now you just come here, talk about shit like this, and have Mixteco once in a while.
That's
that's
where this whole fantasy like falls apart for me. I don't know how I'd make money anywhere else. I have no idea. And I'm sure I could figure that out, but that's a problem. And then I think it's like, well, what would you do if you're living in a different country? You know, like you have this other life. I'm like, I don't know, probably be on the internet, like looking at bullshit. And it's just, so it's like, wow.
I just like watch every show. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't
have any, hobbies or ambitions.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough. But I do like the idea of just, maybe I should just take a vacation. I haven't had like a real vacation. Like I've done little weekend getaways. I don't think I've had a real vacation since 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time.
I think it might be time.
Might be time, Chief. Did we know what did his family know?
No.
Oh, so he didn't even tell them.
No,
this guy was fucking.
Yeah. So he said like I was depressed. And you're like, what are you depressed about?
He was big time going through it. Big time.
Yeah, and I wonder if it was like, he went on this trip and it seemed like that was like his breaking point. So he goes to the Netherlands, and I wonder if it was just like, I can imagine being someone who's effectively got their finger on the button. Not directly, but if like a nuclear war started, and he's like, so I wrote the code or whatever his job was, that ended up killing millions and millions of people. That would weigh on me. That would weigh on me.
Yeah.
But knowing how I am, I would probably be like, hey, I just can't do this anymore. Can I leave now? And they would say, yes. Like, exactly. here's your debriefing.
Had enough.
Yeah. And because you'd put 10 years in, so you can just kind of up and leave. So, so that was kind of crazy, but I also, I don't hate the move entirely.
Yeah. Well, shout out to this dude. Good luck at the can.
I think he's probably out by now.
Oh yeah, it's over.
Yeah. 5 months.
All right then, Chief. Thank you. Thanks for listening. I think maybe we might do a doc review at some point this week, either tomorrow or Thursday. So look out for that. Also, we are going to put the black sock test to. What do you think about that? We're going to have the.
I don't know about this.
We're doing the sniff test. I think black socks smell worse than white socks. Like I just think like it's just heavier.
So you're thinking, and you're talking like well worn.
Yes, I'm saying like
through the cycle.
If you wore one black sock, one white sock, I think the black sock would smell worse.
And we're talking, does it have? So it has to be both athletic socks.
Yeah, same exact sock.
Because I do think that dress socks. Well, at least I have a theory. Because I would probably not wash those as much. Like, because I feel like I was always scrambling when I used to have to wear dress socks all the time. So I just like pick them off the floor, and you never really know when they're dirty because they're dark. Or white socks, I don't know about you, I can't get them clean. I've never been able to do that my entire life.
White socks?
Yep.
Yeah, it's very hard.
Once you wear them once, they're dead.
Very hard.
So I've always said, if I were a billionaire, I would have a new fresh pair of socks every single day for the rest of my life.
I think that's what Allen Iverson used to do. He used to go on road trips and just buy clothes and never bring anything.
He ended up right. He doesn't have any money issues, right?
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah.
So we're putting it to a test. We're giving Hannah one sock, and then we're gonna try to get some. I
don't think her socks are gonna smell though.
That's why I don't know where she's at. She's supposed to be here right now. I was gonna get her socks, and where she's supposed to wear it for like 24, 48 hours, the same pair, and then we're gonna have someone off the street smell her feet.
So, but I feel like the only way this is a real test, the guy who has to dirty up the socks is Dave.
You think so?
Yes. They got to be. I feel like Hannah's like this little dainty girl.
Yeah, but Dave's no smellier than like the next person.
Or you or I. Yeah. But like, I don't know. It's just,
yeah, but it's a hard sell to get someone off the street to smell my feet or your feet or Dave's feet or Danny.
Yeah, but you might get someone to smell Hannah's feet and might end up with a stalker situation.
Yeah, well, we got Harry here. He'll be able to block them out, so we'll be fine.
Okay, well, at least the assault will be on camera.
All right, then. Thanks, everybody, for listening. That's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow. We will see you then.